This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I am your host, Mark. And today's guest is rock and roll distilled. Welcome Bryan Small of the Hangmen to the podcast. This guy lived the sex, drugs, and rock and roll life until he realized it wasn't sustainable. Born in Montana and raised in Idaho, Bryan moved to LA because that's where his favorite bands were. From there, every rock and roll story seems to have happened to the Hangmen. Their first album was remixed just before release without their knowledge, and they hated it. The follow-up album was hampered by drug addiction and was never released. Bryan talks about the mental aspects of drug addiction and what he and the band would do to feed it. But after seeing the devastation of addiction, he cleaned up and has been that way for 30 years. He started recording again, and after more than a decade-long gap between the first and second Hangmen album, he's been releasing music consistently. He talks about the latest version of the Hangmen, why there's basically two bands on the album Cactusville, and why he moved back to Montana. He talks about new work and the future of the Hangmen. So follow them on Facebook and Instagram at @the_Hangmen. If you like some dirty, stonesy rock, do yourself a favor and check them out. And check us out at Performance ANX on social media. Our merch is through performanceanx.threadless.com, and you can send us money for coffee at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. Check us out on Gigaverse, where I'll be doing some live streams. Now let's get ready to rock and roll with Bryan Small of the Hangmen on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
This is Bryan from the Hangmen coming to you from Performance Anxiety Podcast. Give it a listen.
Before we get going, I do want to thank Tex Mosley for connecting us. That dude is amazing. So thank you, Tex.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy, man.
He really, what a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And when you look at the pictures of him for their latest album, I'm like, oh my God, this dude is scary.
Yeah.
But
no, he's so sweet.
But he's not at all.
He's a teddy bear, man.
He really is. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I do this podcast is to find out how people get to where they're at. You know, there's so many amazing stories in music and any creative endeavor, really, that I'm very interested in backstories, really. And I love to find out how people got to where they are. And you've just led such a rock and roll life, and I kind of want to know more about it. So
yeah, well, ask away.
All right,
I'm an open book, man. I got nothing to hide.
All right, well, that's what I like to hear. So
yeah,
all right, so let's start at the beginning. I believe you grew up. You're from Montana, is that right?
Yeah. And I live here now. So, but I was in Idaho growing up too.
Oh, so it's like Montana, and I think it was Boise, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you in Montana before going to Boise?
Well, we left here when I was like 5, 6 years old, and then I'd come back for summers with my dad, and I was with my mom and her new husband in Boise. So I did a lot of growing up in Boise, and summers here in Montana. So that's where I kind of fell in love with music.
Those are your formative years?
Yeah, absolutely.
What music were you listening to when, growing up? Were your parents or your step-parents into music at all? And was that an influence in what you liked?
My mom was a little bit into music, So she had a Bob Dylan record that I happened upon and thought the album cover looked intriguing, and the music in the album was even more intriguing. It was Highway 61 Revisited.
Oh yeah.
And that was my first like aha moment that there was something out there that, because I would always listen to the radio. I knew all the hits and stuff like that, but this was something else. So I don't know why it spoke to me, but it did, like it spoke to millions of others.
Yeah. Dylan has a knack for that.
Yeah. It's just like so unique sounding compared to, because back then, I mean, the top 40 was like John Denver and Captain and Tennille and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And maybe there was, and like Jim Stafford, Spiders and Snakes,
Wow.
and the Streak and Truckin'.
Oh, Ray Stevens.
Yeah. And, novelty songs, and then, but there's some great, I love all that shit. I really do. But this was like, this was seemed like something special.
Yeah. Compared to all that stuff, it was rougher and raw. A lot of that stuff was very polished sounding.
Yeah. 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 It was wilder sounding for sure. And then I think my mom bought me a Beatles record. Well, I know she did for Christmas, like maybe the year after that. And that was Revolver.
Ooh.
It wasn't when Revolver came out. I'm not, I'm old and not that old.
Right.
So Revolver, which led to the Stones.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'd hear on the radio and stuff. And I loved that because I thought I could, that's something I can sing,
Yeah, very accessible.
That's something I can kind of possibly do if I was singing it, But I started out as a drummer, so.
Okay, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What instrument did you start off with and when? How old were you when you started playing music?
Well, I started beating on drums and things, from the very beginning. So, but I didn't have drums until I was like, I don't know, maybe 11. I mowed enough lawns or something to buy a pawn shop set of drums.
Yeah.
And, the drums I had before then were just like those cheap ones that you'd buy for your kids for Christmas, the ones they weren't real drums.
Yeah, like cardboard.
Yeah. So then I bought a set of drums, and then I bought Straight Shooter by Bad Company, and that's how I learned how to play drums.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I just played to that record, the whole record.
Oh,
Man. That's that. Yeah. So I'm self-taught. So I'm no better than I was when I was that age. It's true.
So Bad Company was, I guess, what's now classic rock. Was that what you were drawn to when you started branching out and finding your own music? Like the Bad Companies, Led Zeppelins? Things like
when I started writing my own music?
Well, when you started branching out and finding your own music, stuff that your parents were you were out and buying your own music.
Yeah. It was all the junior high and high school stuff that all my friends were into. That's what, from heavy metal, the first few Iron Maiden records.
Oh, yeah.
And Judas Priest and Alice Cooper and all that stuff, and of course the Rolling Stones. Less Beatles. I was into more harder rock type stuff, I think. But I did really love Fleetwood Mac too. As well as Kiss. I was, I liked a lot of that stuff, and I liked some of the early disco too.
Okay.
Even though like Donna Summers and stuff like that and Ring My Bell and all that stuff was really cool, I thought,
Wow. Okay. So, I did not expect that.
And then into the Stones doing their version of disco and Rod Stewart doing his version,
Yeah. Were you singing at this point or did that come later?
I started out playing drums only. Then I started out playing drums and singing. And then I started just being the singer, maybe like Steven Tyler or Iggy Pop went from drums to singing, they became the singers. I think a lot of singers were drummers at one point.
Yeah. Chris Cornell.
Was he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was the first drummer for Soundgarden.
That I did not know.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
So you're good company.
Yeah. So then I went to singing. Then later, like when I started realizing that people like write their own songs and stuff, and I was starting to get into more like punk rock type stuff, new wave and punk rock. And I bought a guitar and then just learned the same 3 chords that I still know today. You know?
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. So you're self-taught in everything then?
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I've kind of tried to stay blissfully ignorant to what's supposed to be right and what's right to me, you know, what sounds right to me. And kind of intentionally don't listen to a lot of music.
Oh, really? Okay.
You know? Yeah. And I love trying to make up my own songs, but I don't like seek out and listen to too much.
Wow.
You know?
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you started playing in bands and gigging? And was that still in Montana or was it?
I was in Idaho. No, I was gigging in bars before I was old enough to be in there for sure. You know, I was probably, you know, we'd play all the junior high dances and stuff like that, you know, cover bands, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I did that for forever, then made it into the bars. And then, you know, I didn't do any original music until I started writing and demoing songs in Boise on my own.
Okay.
And so one of the first bands that did what Bob Dylan did for me originally was a band called Gun Club out of LA.
Oh,
you know, so
Pierce, yeah.
Yeah. So when I heard that, I just like, okay, this is what I want to do. You know, this is the kind of, I don't know what it's called, cowpunk, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's got the rootsy stuff that I love from Stones and Dylan and stuff like that. It had this blues thing going on and a bunch of stuff that was just like, it just spoke to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like nothing else did.
Wow.
You know, and that's where the Hangmen, that's where our roots was in Gun Club and X and these bands from Los Angeles.
Okay.
You know, that's what propelled me to start writing my own songs.
Was that in Boise when you started writing, or did you moved to LA?
No, I had a little 4-track, and you know, I would go play the drum bit parts. You know, I'd have a song in my head, and then I'd play the parts. You know, because I was good enough of a drummer to play whatever I wanted a drummer to play.
Okay.
You know, which is pretty primitive stuff. And likewise on guitar, I can't play leads, but I could put a slide on something and make it sound creepy or whatever, or dark, you know?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the first Hangmen songs were very, very, like our very first demo was so Gun Clubby, you know? It's so Gun Clubby. I love it. I love it. And I love those songs, you know? Then we started to straighten out the beats a little bit instead of all this, all that kind of stuff. It became, you know, we got more like mid-tempo stuff, more Tom Petty-ish type influences going on, and Ramones, you know. I love all that stuff.
Just kind of an aside, I guess. Have you heard those Jeffrey Lee Pierce sessions, the ones that Cypress Grove has been putting out for the past several years?
I've heard little bits of it.
Okay.
You know,
because I haven't found too many people who cite Gun Club as a reference, but I think they've got some amazing things on there, like a huge Mark Lanigan fan, huge David Eugene Edwards fan, and the latest one's got Pete and Leah from Black Rebel Motorcycle Club on it. So for somebody who's as big a fan as you are, I'm always curious to see what you think of the takes on these songs, because I know some of them are were unfinished songs. Some of them are straight up covers.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I was just curious to see if you had a chance to listen to them or not.
Having a chance to and actually listening to them are two different things.
That's
To be honest with you, I kind of got a little soured on that whole sessions thing because they didn't include Chris D. And Chris D's a friend of mine, and he should have been included like big time in all this, you know?
Yeah, I didn't realize he didn't have any part in it.
No, he wasn't. He said he wasn't asked to do it.
Oh,
I'm just
wow.
like, what the fuck?
That
So, anyways, that took me out of being super interested in listening to it. But, you know, that was quite a few years ago now. And I kind of like, you know, I got to be a little more open-minded,
yeah.
you know, because I love a lot of the artists that have been like Lanigan. He was just amazing.
He was.
So,
I got so lucky. He came on the podcast twice.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll send you a link to at least the first one. The second one is basically like 15 minutes long, and it's just about that Christmas EP he put out. But the first one is like almost 2 hours long. So it's
wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. So he was always so kind to the podcast, and so anytime I asked him anything, he'd always reply pretty quickly and.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, he was, yeah. A funny story about recording it was we're chatting beforehand, I'm pretty sure I was recording this. I'll have to go back and listen to the raw file, but he'd just gotten copies of his book, Sing Backwards and Weep, that he had to sign. So we're just kind of talking, breaking the ice while he's doing that. We had not actually getting into the podcast yet. And so he puts his phone down and he's unpacking and he's pulling things out of his pocket to look for a knife or something. So he pulls out keys. He pulls out like a cigarette lighter. He pulls out a 9mm. Puts it down, and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "All right." So he goes, "Oh yeah, this is. If you hang around some of the people that I've hung around throughout my life, you need to carry one of these."
Right.
I bet.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Sounds like. Sounds dark, Mark.
He was. He was, but what a guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, man, what a voice. What a voice.
I'm telling you. So
yeah. I was saying, you know, that I didn't really seek out music, you know, but when I did hear Screaming Trees and Mark's voice, and then I knew that he was probably maybe somebody told me that he was really in a gun club or something or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was just, then a friend of mine ended up playing with him. And then, you know, just a lot of things. We were in the same kind of area of each other, but I never got to meet him. And I always wanted to. Yeah,
that was a loss. What made you move out to LA? Had the Hangmen formed yet, or did that happen once you moved?
No, I didn't have a band yet. I had about maybe 6 songs, 4-tracked, and I knew that Gun Club and X, like I said, and Tex and the Horseheads were all in Los Angeles, you know, so that's where my arrow pointed to. And then I happened to know this girl who used to live in Boise, and she had moved to Los Angeles. So I moved in with her, and the building I moved into was 1201 Orange Grove, which is in West Hollywood. And in that building were, I think, two of Tex and the Horseheads lived there. Keith Morris would be coming in and out of the building. Chili Peppers would be coming in and out of the building.
Oh, jeez.
The band Poison 13.
Oh, yeah.
They stayed at the building. So I was like, couldn't have been, you know, this was Mecca for me. So yeah. So I landed exactly where I was supposed to be, or where I'd hoped to be, which was right in the middle of that music scene that I loved. I moved right there. You know, it was insane.
How old were you at the time?
I was 20.
Oh, wow. Man, you're just a kid.
Yeah. That building was just you know, legendary, you know.
It sounds like it. That sounds wild.
Yeah.
So how did you meet the members of the Hangmen, and how did the band form?
I put an ad out in the music or a publication called The Recycler.
Oh.
So you can find anything in that, you know, from used motorcycles to bandmates, you know. So I listed my influences, you know, and I thought, okay, this will weed out a lot of people that need not apply, you know, and it did, because the first person to answer the ad was my bass player,
Nice.
Johnny Holidays, he was called then, Doug, and then Billy came walking through the door of my apartment, you know, answering the ad, and I go, if this fucker can play a note, he's in, because he looked like Joey Ramone meets Keith Richards, you know.
Awesome.
And he was as good of a guitar player and unique of a guitar player as he was his vibe, you know. He was just a sweet guy, and he loved music. And then my drummer, the first drummer we auditioned was this guy, Alex Kirst, who ended up playing with the Nymphs and Iggy Pop. He was with Iggy for a long time, and with the Nymphs for their whole thing. But he showed up to the first rehearsal late and drunk and could barely play, and I was just like, nah.
Yeah.
So we got Lenny, who was a friend of mine from Boise, who lived out in Monrovia. Where do you live?
I live in Virginia.
Oh, okay. But do you know these places I'm speaking of?
I know some of them. Yeah.
Okay. But Monrovia is a way out, but it's still LA adjacent. So we called him up, and I knew he was a really good drummer as far as what we needed, you know, which was a simple song, listen to this song type drummer and have a groove. And he was perfect, you know. So that was the original lineup of the Hangmen. And that was like 84.
Okay.
Late 84.
Were you the main songwriter for all that? Were you using your demo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those were the first songs that we started, and I just kept writing, and you know.
Once you guys started playing out, how soon until you got approached by Capitol?
Shit, that's from late 84 to probably late 87 maybe.
Okay, so you guys were really playing and just getting to know your craft and all that.
Yeah, and we were in that time frame. We were playing at a party downtown, and Keith Morris approached us and said he wanted to work with us. You know?
Cool.
So he was our first manager, and Keith actually lived with Billy and I, and we just do demos and send them out to record companies. And we did our first demos that we did with Keith were done with Brett Gurewitz from Epitaph.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He engineered those.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that's when Epitaph was really small. And, you know, in hindsight, I wish we would have just been an Epitaph band, you know, and not suffered the overproduction and the bullshit that went along with a major label.
Yeah, because that's quite a story. I was listening and reading a little bit about that. It's insane. And before we get into that, it's funny because we talk about L.A. and Hollywood and area all around that time period. So the mid 80s to late 80s. For me, it just makes me think of hair metal. But there's a whole lot more going on in that area besides Poisons and Warren.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it was the clubs that we were playing was the bands that were coming up at the same time were like the Nymphs, Tool,
Yeah,
Jane's Addiction, You know, the Chili Peppers were already well on their way.
Yeah.
But, you know, bands like the Leaving Trains that we loved. God, there's so many, you know, I don't want to, but, you know, from this like cow punk thing that we were kind of doing to what Jane's Addiction were doing, you know, it was all that was our scene, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, it had nothing to do with Sunset scene.
Right.
You know, that was
out of nowhere.
That was a different world.
Yeah.
You know, and the two, at least for us, we were very xenophobic band because we had our thing.
Yeah.
And we didn't want anything that they had, but we loved what we had. And, you know, when you're that age, you kind of like, you get like precious about shit.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, so I was very scowly about, they're from this Sunset Strip band, you know.
Yeah.
They have nothing to offer. They're not the real deal.
Right. They're too polished. Well, and that's the thing. Yeah. Like you're saying, bands like Jane's Addiction and Tool were there. They didn't just pop out of nowhere. You know, they developed over several areas. And I have to remind myself that, you know, was it Undertow came out in 93? It didn't just come out of nowhere. It didn't just pop up.
No.
I've got to remind myself, they were out playing for years before that.
They were playing these dinky clubs, you know, that we were playing, that we still play.
Yeah.
You know.
You got signed to Capitol, and the first album, I know I've read that you're not happy with it. You weren't happy at the time with it. I mean, you had a great producer, Vic Mail, who did The Who's Live at Leeds, Motorhead's Ace of Spades. What happened that you didn't like how it ended up?
It was sabotage, basically, because Vic did all the mixes, the band. We were really happy with it.
Okay.
Capitol wasn't. And over a weekend, they paid this guy, Paul Laney, like $30,000 to remix it over the weekend.
Whoa.
Yeah. You know, behind our back.
Wow.
And they go, here's your record. And I remember listening to it going, this doesn't sound like us at all. I was just fucking so depressed and drunk and just like, where are Vic's mixes?
Yeah.
You know? So we're trying to find those mixes.
Still?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We've never had our shit together enough to like launch an investigation.
You get Doge
not that we do now, but you know, we're trying, you know.
Wow, that is amazing.
We're putting the feelers out and trying to get those masters back from Capitol and seeing if they have the. I'm not interested in re-releasing that record,
right?
But Vic's mixes, that would be something interesting.
So
you know, I love all the songs. It was the way that he made the production sound in the mix. You can do whatever the fuck you want when you're mixing.
Yeah,
you can take something beautiful and make it into something not.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, you know?
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. So is that why you guys released the live album? Because is that closer to the sound?
Exactly.
That makes
so sense. I steer everybody to the live album. You know, if they want to hear what the Hangmen, what we really sound like.
That makes sense. I mean, I love, like, the songs I love off the first album or I love Tell Me What You Want, Last Drive. I love Coal Mine. So, you know, hearing the way they're supposed to be. I would love to hear the original studio mixes of those too. That would be incredible.
Oh yeah, I would too. I only heard it once, and we had a cassette.
Jeez.
And we were doing the album photos, and we were playing the cassette of Vic's mixes, and we were so happy, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the last I've ever heard of him. You know, that was it.
That's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess they hang on to mixes. I mean, they still exist, you think?
Who knows? Who knows? They're somewhere.
Oh,
Somebody's got them.
you see bands come out with like remastered versions with demos and unreleased tracks and stuff that bands you never would have imagined. So they've got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
The next album took a while to come out, but in between that, so you guys were released by Capitol and then picked up by Geffen.
Correct.
And then there's another album that never came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why didn't it come out? What's the story behind all that?
Well, the story's a one-word answer, and that's drugs.
Okay, quick story.
That's why that didn't come. Yeah, you know, with a million stories behind that.
Yeah.
But you know, we did it with. We had a great producer, Rob Younger from the Radio Birdmen, and they sent us down to was it Nashville? Yeah, Arden Studios in Nashville. Yeah, what are the two? I think Nashville was part of it. What's the other big music place in Texas or Nashville or Tennessee?
Memphis.
Okay, yeah, that's where we did most of it.
Okay.
In Memphis at Arden Studio. Then we went to Nashville to do a little bit more tracking. But they said these guys have very bad drug problems. Let's get them out of LA. And I thought, okay, we'll try that. You know,
Yeah.
to me, it sounds like it might work, but there's no chance it was going to work
Really?
because we're all fucking junkie alcoholics.
Okay.
And we're gonna go even crazier because we don't know where to get anything down there. So we got to work extra hard to find, you know.
Wow.
So we're put ourselves in a lot of situations that we didn't know what you know, when you don't know a big city and you're looking for heroin or whatever.
Yeah.
to just fucking not be sick.
Yeah.
You know. And you get so desperate, you know, that, you know, you finally call friends in LA and have them FedEx you a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Man.
And then you're drinking. In my case, I was out of my main medication, which was the heroin at that point.
Okay.
So instead, I would have to drink so much more to feel, you know, so the sickness wouldn't be so bad.
Wow.
You know, and the sickness was mostly mental because the second you saw that package, all of a sudden you're fucking spry and like happy.
Oh,
you know.
wow. Okay. Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. So,
man, I do
Yeah.
have one question for you before we didn't even think to ask this. So Capitol takes your album, screws around with it, and then drops.
Yeah.
Why did they drop you when it seems like they messed everything up?
dude, because they're a big major label and we had nothing to offer them.
Oh.
You know, we're not going to be the next Guns N' Roses. We didn't want to be the next Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking. If you're looking for that, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Okay.
And I think they realized that. Maybe not. I don't know. But all I know is after we got dropped and the band we were so disillusioned, and, you know, Billy and Lenny and Doug, you know, they were kind of over it.
Yeah.
And so we parted ways, and it was amicable, you know.
Okay.
It wasn't like we hated each other by any means, you know. We'd gone through this from being like absolute nobodies to having a major label deal,
Yeah.
and the road to get there was this adventure for all of us. So we will always have that, and we love, I love those guys. Anyways, where was I going? What's this?
I kind of interrupted you with that question, so I'm sorry about that. But we were just kind of talking about what happened to the second album. So you were in Memphis.
Oh yeah. We recorded it. I had put together a new lineup with Tex.
Okay.
Tex was in the band.
Oh.
And because I saw Tex and this guy Damon and this drummer, they were Rick L. Rick's band.
Yeah.
And I go, fuck. I go, these guys are great. I want this band, So I kind of got that band. And so the songs that I was writing then weren't just they weren't as good, There were a few songs that were okay, but a lot of it was half baked. A lot of it was desperate, because I was so concerned about, getting high and staying high, and trying to keep a band together that, everything was just kind of mishmash put together,
Okay.
In desperation, because, I got a call out of the blue after we got dropped by Capitol and after the band kind of went away, by Tom Zutaut, who said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I go, "Well, I'm got no band and I've got no label." And he goes, "Well, come do a record at Geffen."
Wow.
He goes, "I loved every song on your last record." And I go, "Okay, well, let's go,"
And you're like, I didn't, but okay. I like the songs, but just not the mixes.
Yeah. Well, I think you can hear past the mixes.
Well, he's a professional.
And songs are songs, and they can stand on their own or fall on their own, regardless of the production or, anyways. So that's when I started looking for a band. But you got to remember, during this time, I was just starting to really do drugs a lot.
Okay.
So a lot of my decisions were not based in reality so much. But I did the best I could, and Tex was great. And Damon was a pain in the ass. And my drummer Dino was Dino, and I love him.
Yeah.
And so we did the record down there, and we were just a mess. We were a mess. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was not so brutal on us. It was brutal on Rob. I'm sure it was brutal on the guy. I forget his last name was Ball, but he was the engineer,
Yeah.
And we were just living like assholes, and just wasting an opportunity.
Yeah.
Where we could have been making something really great. We were just trying to, yeah. So I wasn't proud of that record. I was proud of some of the songs, the ones that I'd written actually before the Hangmen, the original version, blew up.
Okay.
Those were the ones I was most. But the good stuff from that record was called Suicide Doors. But the good stuff off of that went on to Metallica I Owe You.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask about that. See if any of that stuff was from that year. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So there's I think it's an 11-year gap between the albums. And I'm imagining that drugs had a big part in the delay.
Yeah, that had everything to do with it.
So what made you turn it around? What got you off of the drugs and got you healthy and back to music?
It was just the realization of this is not why I came to LA. This is not the way I wanted to live my life,
Okay.
because music became less and less and less and less and less important, until it was just like, it was very almost non-existent,
Oh.
So I had um, just a moment of just, being honest with myself. Do I really just want to live like a homeless guy,
Yeah.
or do I want something different, because I knew I had taken that adventure as far as I could, the drug life,
Yeah.
and it began to wear off. And then it got old, then it got boring. Then it got like I was a slave, I wasn't free. I was a complete slave,
Right.
And so that was the turnaround, because I wanted freedom back, and I still want freedom,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And how long ago?
So
That was what, almost 30 years ago now?
yeah.
Wow.
28 years ago. Yeah.
Man, that is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how did you start recording it? How did you get the Hangmen active again? Did you know people who wanted to be in the band, or did you have to?
Yeah. I had texts. I don't know if I had texts after I got sober or not, but I remember going to see this band, the Comatones, and their guitar player, Jimmy James, who happened to like the Hangmen, was a fan of the Hangmen. And I was going, this guy is he's absolutely everything I love in guitar. He's sloppy. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
He doesn't really know what he's doing, but he does, and it's everything that he's everything that Billy was too. Billy was the same way,
Awesome.
They're just like, they were self-taught, and they really play with a lot of feel and vibe, And so Jimmy, I just kept going, God, I want this guy. I want this guy. I want him. And we finally asked him, and, he was ready to do it. So Jimmy's been with me for I don't even know how long, just forever. But he's had time off and then time back in the band.
Okay.
But mostly time in.
I was listening to Metallica just the other day to get familiar with everything, and
Sure.
I love Bliss, but my favorite is Bent. That song is awesome.
Shit car, no gas, pants down, crystal meth bands. Broke down, choked up, spitball, cattle prod dance. I know that you want me. I know that you want me.
When you look back, did that time, that 11-year span, I mean, did that change the way you write music, or your point of view on music, or did you just basically pick up where you left off?
Who knows? I don't even.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, really, who knows? I don't have a process or a craft or I don't really. It's just like, send me something somehow,
Yeah.
But I got to have a guitar and be available, and because I do work really, really hard at searching for whatever it is, the riff or a line or something like that. But it's not like, who knows where songs come from.
Yeah.
The people that know where they come from are the people that write those hit songs for Nashville and stuff. They have a process. They have a mathematical thing that I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, and I don't care to know, because I don't want to write songs like that.
That sounds like it loses some of the magic if you do it through math.
Yeah. And that's, and that's been why I've stayed as kind of naive about music and knowing which chords I'm actually playing.
Yeah.
I don't care if that's a B something or an A something. It's not necessary.
You know what it
for
sounds
me.
like.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know the three chords that I started writing songs with, and that's, and maybe that's completely stupid. I don't know, but that's just what I do. And
you do what works for you, man. I wouldn't say that's stupid at all.
Yeah.
If it works for you, I mean,
yeah, it works for me.
Yeah, and you've been putting albums out on a very regular basis since Metallic IOU. I mean, every few years there's a new Hangmen album, so it's working.
Yeah,
whatever you're doing works, and they're good. Yeah. That's the thing. Like In the City, I love it. That's dark. It's awesome. I Want to Be Loved, Dark Eyes. Those two of my favorites off that album.
Oh, cool.
And then I'll probably be going a little out of order here because
sure,
I'm just going by my notes here and I kind of bounce back and forth when I was listening to music and stuff. So outside of the LPs, you did a really interesting single since touching back on Gun Club. You released a cover of Thunderhead with a studio version of She Walks.
Right.
Does Thunderhead a special song for you, or is there any meaning, any reason you picked that song in particular?
Well, the funny thing about those two songs, those were two songs that were actually on the Geffen record.
Oh, wow.
That were going to come out. Those were the only ones that were ever released. Oh. And that was released as that single.
Yeah, she was wild. She would go anywhere. She drives all over and backwards. I didn't even know she was there. She slept with garbage. Well, shit, I didn't know. But she's got a super case of whooping cough with some kind of mental health. She's been wild when across the sea.
We were digging around going, what would be cool to put out off that record, that nobody's heard before, and, that I could stand behind, and that's Thunderhead. We did, that's Tex playing on all that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's Tex doing all the slide, and She Walks. Does that have piano on it? I think so. Yeah. And we never did She Walks except on the live record.
Right.
And that was one of the early Hangmen songs, and I still love that song.
So Cactusville, another awesome album, but
thank you.
It seems like there's, according to the credits, it looks like there's almost two bands on that album.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that there's so many different people on it?
The reason is because I wanted to do a record that treated the slower, more country stuff that we do from time to time exactly the way I wanted it to be treated. That's with violins or strings or keyboards or, different guitar players and, just to fill it out, pedal steel.
Yes.
And so it's still the band. It's the band plus,
Okay.
So just additional musicians to make those songs fully realized as more of like country songs, with the pedal steel and keyboards and stuff like that we love to record with, but we don't incorporate that live,
So do you play those more country songs live, just stripped down versions, or?
No.
Wow.
No.
Oh
no. We're still in the fucking hit them over the head and then get off, the caveman style, instead of taking our time and I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I like that album a lot because the first half definitely sounds like the Hangmen, But the second half sounds like the Birds came in and started jamming with you.
Yeah.
Which I love. It's such a cool sound.
I'm stepping out in my black boots, and I'm walking tall in my black boots. I wanna get high.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it turned out. I'm proud of that record for sure.
So you've got Stories to Tell came out. Did that come out after you moved back to Montana, or were you still out in LA when that came out?
No, Stories came out after I moved back.
Okay, what brought you back to Montana?
COVID, I think. You know, like a lot of people, when you're sitting around and you're thinking and you're going, oh, what am I going to do with my life now? You know, and you know what's best for the family and this and that. You know, so we had our LA adventure, and the kids were. My daughter, at least, she was going to school downtown LA, like Grand Arts was the name of the school. Okay, and she would we lived in Altadena at the time, and she would get on the train in Altadena, and her friends would come on, you know, at each stop. She'd have another friend coming on. Then there's these girls walking to school, and it got so dangerous for them. You know, we just go, Dad, this is bad. We got followed. We're stepping over people's shit. Oh, and you know, it's just, I go, oh, maybe we should try something different. So, and you know, this is where I'm from, and I still have family here. So, come back and help out a little bit if we can, and you know, give the kids a different view out the window. I love LA though, but you know, it was just some time for a new adventure.
Oh yeah, I can't blame you on that one. So when you did Stories to Tell, was the rest of the band still in LA, or was that?
Yeah. So I'd come down, and we would record a little bit. You know, we recorded one song right before I moved up, and that was Last Time I Saw You. We did that. Oh, and we did another one. I think we did two with Rob Schnapp, and he was great to work with. But yeah, we did. So we had two songs before I moved up here. Okay, you know, that was like fuel. You know, because Last Time I Saw You was a very Hangmen-y type song, and it was a song about Montrose Heathman, who played in the Hangmen on East of Western. And, you know, just a song about him or dedicated to him or whatnot. And then I think we did another one there. But anyways, yeah, then I'd come down and we'd record a little more. And then I'd come up here and do some overdubs because I had a great guy that I was working with up here. And slowly made it come to life.
So the music is very much Hangmen, very dirty sound, very dirty vibe to it, which is one of the draws of the sound. You've got songs like Drink Smoke, which I think that's a great song, but is it tough to write songs like that, being sober almost 30 years, to write a song that's about abuse and things like that? Is it? is it just like no problem?
It's no problem because it's still everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, I don't live in some protected bubble,
Right,
by any means, you know, and I can draw on that experience, you know, and I can relate to other people who are going through it for sure.
right. That's
You
the
know,
point.
so yeah, so it doesn't take long for me to be able to get back in that headspace.
Okay.
You know,
And it's not an issue for you. It doesn't like make you feel like you're back in those times or anything. In a bad way.
in a grateful way.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, that wow, shit. This is what it was like, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not a unique story whatsoever, man. All my friends have been through it, and a lot of them are gone, but a lot of them are still here. So
Yeah.
you know.
Well, one of the things that I thought was really cool about Stories to Tell is it sounds like it just kind of builds off of Cactusville, like Midnight Riders. It sounds like it's kind of a mix of both sides of Cactusville, where it's the Hangmen, but fleshed out a little bit more. So it's very Stonesy kind of feel. Like it's not a cowpunk song. It's gone beyond that. And on the outside, that one stands out for me. I love the lyrics on that one. I think Stories to Tell, maybe the favorite album that I've listened to from the Hangmen. It's
awesome.
I think.
Well, thanks.
Oh, of course. Because I think it's taken everything that you've done in the past with your past, like 7, 8 studio albums or so, and combined it all into just a very unique sound. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe like Dirty Birds kind of. It's a very like cowpunk
Dirty Birds.
The Dirty Birds, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love the Birds, so I appreciate that. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
And you also do a CCR cover, which is awesome.
Yeah, we love CCR. Yeah.
When the sky is gray and the moon is hate, I'll be down to get you. Roots of blood will say, the sin is the purpose, knocking at your door.
My wife's a huge CCR fan. She loves that version. So you.
Oh, cool! Right on. Yeah. I'd always loved CCR, and in the same way that, like, when I heard Gun Club, I'm going like, these guys are like fucking the evilest CCR, you know.
That's
type, you know.
I never thought of it like that.
You know, because I love that swamp-ish vibe.
Yeah.
You know, I really do. So we wanted to do a CCR song, and Jimmy came up with this, you know, Sinister Purpose, and I was like, oh my God. And we just played it once at rehearsal, and we go, well, this sounds like us, you know.
Oh yeah. It fits perfectly.
Yeah, thank you.
So you guys have been releasing albums on a fairly consistent basis. And the last album came out, was it 2023?
You'd know better than that.
So, are you working on anything new? Is there new Hangman music in the works?
Always working on something.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah. I'm as excited about playing and writing as ever, you know. It's just like We love it.
How often do you get a chance to get out and play since there's such a separation between the band members?
Well, it's been harder. It's been a little more difficult for sure.
Yeah.
Angelique, she went back to Texas to help her dad out for a while. She's from Texas.
Okay.
And, so we started the tour. One of our last tours we started in Texas, and just to get us all in one spot.
Yeah.
So she didn't have to. So it's been a little weird. I'm kind of going nuts actually, because I want to just get rehearsing and fucking around, and seeing my bandmates, and I think we're all in the same boat. We're constantly in touch with each other, texting each other all the time. And we had a tour in June set up that fell through. So that, and we'd worked on that for a while, and but in December, we did a few shows with Social Distortion, and that was awesome to be back with them again.
Yeah.
Because we did a lot of
history with them.
Yeah. So that was wonderful. Got to play a couple venues that we'd never played before. And we got to do the Fillmore again, which we played there in 1987,
wow.
I think, with X.
Oh,
so
nice.
This was like all these years later, from 87 to 2025, and the Hangmen are back at the Fillmore. So
that is awesome.
That was just like, that was great. That was fantastic.
So do you guys ever get out to the East Coast very often?
Well, this June tour was going to take us out there, and we'll figure something out for sure. But it was just one of those things. We were gonna. I can't even really. I don't even know if I should say who it was, but it was going to be really good.
Yeah. Oh,
but they couldn't figure out their shit. They were from the UK, and they couldn't get their shit together, and it was just like, dude, time's up.
Yeah.
Oh,
that sucks.
Yeah, well, it does suck, but something else is going to happen,
Well, I hope you get out to the East Coast, because I would love to catch a Hangmen show if you come to the DC.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. God, I don't know when we played DC last. I don't know, but that would be great.
Yeah, there's a ton of places to play in DC. There's dozens of places.
That's great.
In DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Oh, it's great.
That's great to hear. That's not usually what you hear.
Yeah. But so many places. It's amazing. I do a lot of concert photography, so I'm very lucky to be in this area.
Oh, great.
So if you guys come out, we'll connect, and I can bring my camera, and I'll shoot the show. And
we'll stay at your house.
Yeah.
And
why not? You're sober 30 years. I trust you. Well, man, this has been a blast. I can't thank Tex enough for connecting us. Is there any definitive plans on new music, or I know you, like you said, you're still working on tour, but everything's still up in the air?
It's never definitive, and it's never, who knows when and if the next song is going to come, but
that's fair.
So yeah, I can't plan like that. I can't do it. That's why that's why I never would have survived on a major label, because they expect product. They just want product, and I can't. I just can't. I'm not a paint by numbers. I mean, there is a craft. I know this, and I'm not trying to take away from that at all, because there is, but I don't know what that craft is.
Well, for you, it's magic. For them, it's product or art.
Yeah.
It's magic.
Maybe.
Art.
Yeah.
Well, how can people follow the Hangmen? How can they pick up the music? What's the best way to keep track of the band and when new releases come out and when you guys hit the road?
Well, you can, Facebook, Instagram, And all our stuff's on Spotify and Apple Music.
So
As far as touring and stuff, all that's going to be through Instagram and Facebook and a little Twitter here, our X now and then. We're laying a little bit low right now, just because we just got the news that June is not happening, so we're kind of trying to reorientate ourselves and see what we're going to do.
what's the handle on Instagram? Is it
I don't know.
at the Hangmen?
I don't know yet.
I'll find out. I'll put it in the intro. Don't worry.
I'm the worst.
No, I got a lot of people do that.
I'm sorry.
No. We'll put it in the show notes, and I'll put it in the intro. So no worries.
Yeah.
Well, man,
All right.
This has been so much fun. I'm so glad Tex connected us, because that's basically how I have found out about you, and I've been enjoying the music ever since Tex brought you up. So,
great.
I owe him a debt of gratitude. And
yeah, I do too. I love that dude. Yeah.